moment Adam Sandler stopped smiling, everyone in the studio knew something had changed. What was supposed to be a friendly interview on The View turned into the most brutal confrontation in daytime TV history. Joy Behar attacked. Sandler fought back. And what happened next shocked millions of viewers worldwide. This is that story. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now let's dive into what really happened. It was supposed to be just another Tuesday morning on The View. The cameras were rolling. The studio audience was buzzing with excitement, and Adam Sandler was scheduled for what everyone assumed would be a fun, lighthearted promotion for his latest Netflix comedy. After all, this wasn't his first rodeo on the show. The Hollywood funny man had graced The View's iconic roundtable multiple times before, always bringing his signature blend of self-deprecating humor, wholesome stories, and that lovable, goofy charm that has made him a household name for decades. The green room backstage was filled with the usual pre-show energy. Sandler was relaxed, joking with the production staff, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. His publicist had assured him this would be a quick 20-minute segment. Standard promotional fare. Talk about the new movie, share a funny story from set, maybe discuss his family, and wrap it up with some laughs. Easy, standard, safe. But the moment Adam Sandler walked onto that stage, something felt off. Veteran talk show viewers who had watched The View for years would later say they sensed it immediately. The atmosphere in Studio 1C at ABC Studios in New York City was different. There was a tension crackling through the air that had nothing to do with the bright studio lights or the live television pressure that comes with every broadcast. Joy Behar, the outspoken co-host known for her sharp wit, biting political commentary, and absolutely no-nonsense approach to interviewing, sat at the table with what some audience members would later describe as a predatory look in her eyes. While the other co-hosts offered genuine smiles and warm welcomes, Joy's expression was harder to read. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She had papers in front of her, notes that seemed more extensive than what a typical celebrity puff piece would require. As the audience applauded and Sandler waved with his trademark goofy smile, doing that little half-bow thing he always does, something unprecedented happened. Joy Behar didn't wait for the pleasantries. She didn't ask about his family. She didn't mention his latest project with enthusiasm. She didn't even let him fully settle into his seat. Instead, she immediately launched into what many viewers watching live from their homes would later describe on social media as an ambush, a hit job, and an assassination of character. The words came out before Sandler had even finished sitting down. "Adam, let's talk about your movies," she began, her tone not warm or curious, but dripping with sarcasm and barely concealed contempt. "Why do you keep making the same film over and over again? Don't you think audiences deserve better than what you've been giving them?" The studio fell completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop on that carpeted floor. The audience, which had been enthusiastically clapping just seconds before, collectively held their breath. This wasn't the fun, fluffy interview they had lined up at 4 a.m. to see. This was something else entirely. The other co-hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and the others seated at the table, exchanged uncomfortable glances. Their eyes widened. Their smiles faltered. You could see them physically tense up, uncertain of where this was heading or how to intervene without making things worse. Sandler, genuinely caught off guard by the hostile opening, did what he always does when he's uncomfortable. He chuckled nervously, that high-pitched laugh that fans know so well. He scratched the back of his head and tried to play it off with humor. "Well, Joy, I try to make movies that make people happy, you know? That's kind of my thing." But Joy Behar wasn't interested in letting him off easy. Not even close. In fact, she was just getting started. She leaned forward, her voice growing sharper, more aggressive. She continued pressing, relentlessly questioning his artistic choices with a kind of intensity usually reserved for politicians caught in scandals, not comedians promoting family-friendly entertainment. "But Adam, seriously," she pressed on, shuffling through her notes dramatically. "Your Netflix deal, reportedly worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Are you actually creating art, or are you just taking advantage of a system that lets you make lazy comedies with your friends on exotic vacations?" Because that's what a lot of critics are saying. She didn't stop there. Joy brought up review scores, box office disappointments from years past, and even quoted negative critics by name. She suggested he was coasting on nostalgia rather than creating meaningful content. She questioned whether he was phoning it in, whether he even cared about the quality of his work anymore, or if he was just collecting massive paychecks while giving audiences the bare minimum. The attack was systematic, calculated, and brutal. This wasn't journalism. This wasn't even tough but fair questioning. This was a full-scale assault during what was supposed to be a friendly promotional appearance. And everyone watching, both in the studio and at home, knew it. What made this confrontation particularly brutal? What elevated it from an awkward interview moment to a full-blown television catastrophe was Joy Behar's absolutely relentless approach. She wasn't just asking tough questions. She wasn't playing devil's advocate. She was systematically dismantling Adam Sandler's entire career, piece by piece, on live national television. Joy came prepared with receipts. She had clearly done her homework, or more accurately, someone on her team had compiled a devastating dossier on Sandler's filmography. She brought up specific box office numbers, rattling them off with the precision of a prosecuting attorney. Jack and Jill grossed $149 million worldwide, but had a budget of $79 million. That's Razzie Award territory, Adam. You won Worst Actor, Worst Actress for playing both roles, and Worst Picture. How do you even do that? She didn't stop there. Joy pulled up critic reviews on the tablet in front of her, reading select quotes aloud with theatrical disgust. Reviews that called his recent work painfully unfunny, a waste of talent, and evidence that Hollywood has run out of ideas. Each quote landed like a punch, and Sandler's smile grew more and more strained with every word. Then came the comparisons. And this is where things got truly uncomfortable. Joy started naming other comedians, contemporaries of Sandler who had, in her words, evolved their craft and shown real artistic growth. She mentioned how Jim Carrey had taken on dramatic roles, how Will Ferrell had moved into producing quality content, how even Kevin James had diversified his portfolio. The implication was crystal clear. Adam Sandler had stagnated, gotten lazy, stopped trying. Look at what Jordan Peele is doing. Joy continued, her voice rising with passion. He went from comedy to creating Oscar-winning horror films with social commentary. That's evolution. That's growth. What are you doing, Adam? Making another movie where you play a man-child who somehow gets the girl? For anyone watching, whether in the studio or in their living rooms across America, it was painfully clear this wasn't playful banter between a host and a celebrity guest. This wasn't Ellen DeGeneres teasing a guest about their dance moves or Jimmy Fallon doing a silly game. This was a full-on attack, a character assassination during what should have been a simple, friendly, promotional interview for a comedy film. Adam Sandler, known throughout Hollywood for his easygoing nature, his kindness to fans, his loyalty to friends, and his ability to laugh at himself, initially tried to do what he does best, deflect with humor. He shifted in his seat, attempting to maintain that trademark Sandler charm. Well, Joy, I make movies that make people happy, he said with a shrug, his voice still friendly, but noticeably less confident than when he'd walked out. That's what I do. People watch them. People laugh. Families enjoy them together. That's not nothing. But Joy Behar wouldn't let it go. Not for a second. She leaned in even closer, her eyes narrowing, and fired back with a question that genuinely shocked everyone present. But do they make you proud, Adam? When you watch these films, do you feel proud of your work? Or are you just collecting a massive paycheck and laughing all the way to the bank while giving audiences garbage? The audience gasped audibly. A collective intake of breath swept through the studio. This had crossed a line. You could see it on people's faces. This wasn't journalism. This wasn't even tough questioning. This was personal, mean-spirited, and completely inappropriate for a daytime talk show. Even the other View co-hosts looked absolutely shocked. Whoopi Goldberg's eyes went wide. Sarah Haynes put her hand over her mouth. You could see the panic in their expressions as they realized this segment was spiraling completely out of control. They had a celebrity guest being humiliated on live television, and they were all complicit by sitting there. Whoopi, being the veteran broadcaster she is, attempted to intervene. She jumped in quickly, her voice deliberately light and cheerful, trying desperately to steer the conversation towards safer waters. "So, Adam, tell us about the cast. Who did you get to work with on this one? I heard there's some great cameos." But Joy Behar wasn't having it. She literally cut Whoopi off mid-sentence, which was shocking in itself. Nobody cuts off Whoopi Goldberg. Joy turned back to Sandler, ignoring her co-host's attempt at mercy, and kept pushing. She questioned whether Sandler was setting a good example for aspiring filmmakers. She suggested that his lazy comedy approach was actively lowering the bar for entertainment and making it harder for quality films to get made. "You're taking up space, Adam," Joy said, her tone now less sarcastic and more genuinely angry. "You're taking up budgets, theater screens, and streaming real estate that could go to filmmakers who are actually trying to say something meaningful. Don't you think you have a responsibility to do better?" Meanwhile, outside the studio, social media was absolutely exploding in real time. Viewers watching from home couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Phones came out immediately. Fingers flew across keyboards and screens. Within minutes, the hashtag The View started trending on Twitter, climbing rapidly toward the #1 spot nationwide. The online reaction was sharply divided. Team Sandler immediately rallied, with fans defending him passionately, pointing out his decades of beloved films, his charitable work, and the fact that he was being ambushed unfairly. Team Joy emerged just as quickly, with people applauding her for asking tough questions that entertainment journalists usually avoid, praising her for holding celebrities accountable and not just giving them free publicity. The digital battlefield was forming, and this interview was far from over. Then came the turning point, the moment that would be replayed millions of times across every social media platform, the moment that would define this entire confrontation and cement it in television history. After enduring several brutal minutes of relentless criticism, after sitting there with that increasingly uncomfortable smile, while his career was systematically torn apart on live television, after trying to deflect with humor and self-deprecation only to be met with more hostility, Adam Sandler did something completely unexpected. Something that nobody who knew his easygoing reputation could have predicted. He stopped laughing. The change was immediate and dramatic. His expression shifted from friendly and accommodating to something else entirely. Something serious. Something that made everyone in that studio sit up and pay attention. The jovial, goofy Adam Sandler that audiences knew and loved disappeared, replaced by someone who had finally reached their limit. He sat up straight in his chair, his posture transforming from relaxed to commanding, his shoulders squared, his jaw set, and then he looked Joy Behar directly in the eyes with an intensity that seemed to freeze the entire room. The studio, which had been buzzing with uncomfortable energy, fell into an even deeper silence. This was different. Something was about to happen. "You know what, Joy," he began, his voice calm but carrying a firmness that cut through the air like a blade. There was no anger in his tone, no shouting, no losing his temper. Just absolute, unshakable confidence. "I've been in this business for over 30 years. 3 decades. I started on Saturday Night Live when I was 23 years old, making $300 a week. Just grateful to be there." He paused, letting that sink in, his eyes never leaving Joy's. You could see her starting to realize that she might have miscalculated badly. "In those 30 years," Sandler continued, his voice growing stronger, "I've made movies that have brought joy to millions, no, tens of millions of families around the world. Real families, real people, parents and their kids, teenagers hanging out with their friends, college students needing a laugh during finals week, people going through divorces, people who just lost jobs, people fighting cancer who needed 2 hours to forget their problems and just laugh." The audience was transfixed. Some people were nodding along. Others had tears forming in their eyes, moved by his sincerity. "My films have been watched billions of times," he stated, not as a brag, but as a simple fact. "Billions, Joy. With A-B. Do you understand what that means? That's not Hollywood executives deciding what's good. That's actual human beings making a choice, pressing play, and deciding to spend their time with something I created. Nobody forced them. They chose it." Joy tried to interject, opening her mouth to respond, but Sandler held up his hand, respectfully but firmly, and kept going. He had the floor now, and everyone knew it. People quote my lines at their weddings, Joy. Their weddings, one of the most important days of their lives. And they reference Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison or The Wedding Singer because those movies meant something to them. They quote my movies at their family gatherings, at their tough times when they need a laugh, when they're introducing their own kids to the films they grew up with. That's legacy. That's impact. That's connection. His confidence was growing with each word, his voice carrying throughout the studio with perfect clarity. This wasn't rehearsed. This was real, raw, and coming straight from the heart. I could sit here and talk about the hundreds of people I employ with each production, Sandler continued, his hands gesturing now, emphasizing his points. The camera operators, the sound technicians, the costume designers, the caterers, the drivers, the set builders, people with families, with mortgages, with kids in college. I could talk about how my production company has given opportunities to writers, directors, and actors who might not have gotten their shot otherwise. He leaned forward slightly, his intensity building. I could talk about the careers I've helped launch. Drew Barrymore credits The Wedding Singer with revitalizing her career. Kevin James went from being a stand-up comic to a movie star because I believed in him. Rob Schneider, David Spade, Chris Rock. I put my friends in my movies because I'm loyal, and yes, because we make each other laugh, and that translates to the screen. The audience was completely silent, hanging on every single word. Even the camera operators seemed to have stopped moving. I could talk about the fact that audiences actually choose to watch my work, Sandler said, his voice rising slightly with passion. Not critics, Joy. Audiences. The people whose opinions actually matter. The people who spend their hard-earned money on tickets or choose my movies over the thousands of other options available to them. Then came the moment that would trend worldwide for days. Sandler paused, took a breath, and delivered the knockout punch. But instead of talking about all that, I'll ask you this, Joy. When was the last time you created something that brought people together and made them genuinely happy? Not something that divided people. Not something that made people angry or got ratings through controversy. When did you last make something that a parent and their child could enjoy together? That made someone's bad day better? That became a genuine source of joy in people's lives? The studio erupted. The audience, would have been uncomfortably quiet for the entire segment, suddenly burst into thunderous applause. People jumped to their feet. The standing ovation was immediate and overwhelming. Whistles and cheers filled the air. It was a kind of response usually reserved for inspiring speeches or incredible performances, not daytime talk show segments. Joy Behar's face turned bright red, the color creeping up from her neck to her cheeks. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She shuffled her papers nervously, looking down at the desk, unable to meet Sandler's steady gaze. For perhaps the first time in her long career on The View, Joy Behar had been left completely speechless. She had pushed too far, attacked too hard, and now faced the consequences. She realized, right there on live television, that she had miscalculated badly. The other co-hosts looked visibly relieved that Sandler had finally stood up for himself. Whoopi Goldberg was nodding approvingly, a slight smile on her face. Sarah Haynes was clapping along with the audience, clearly moved by Sandler's words. Even the crew members behind the cameras could be seen smiling and nodding in agreement. Adam Sandler had just reminded everyone why he's been successful for 3 decades. Not because he's lucky, not because Hollywood is broken, but because he genuinely cares about making people happy, and people can feel that authenticity. But Adam Sandler wasn't done, not even close. And what happened next proved that beneath that goofy, lovable exterior is someone who knows exactly how to deliver the perfect comedic punch, even when the stakes are serious. With the audience now firmly on his side, with the momentum completely shifted in his favor, Sandler did something brilliant. He leaned back in his chair, settling into that relaxed posture that moviegoers have seen 1,000 times on screen. And then, slowly, that familiar mischievous grin spread across his face. The same grin from Happy Gilmore. The same grin from Billy Madison. The grin that says, "Oh, I've got one more thing to say, and you're going to love this." The audience recognized it immediately. You could feel the anticipation building in the studio. People were already starting to smile before he even opened his mouth, sensing something good was coming. "Enjoy," Sandler said, his tone now playful but with an edge that made it clear he was about to twist a knife. "I've seen clips of this show. I've watched The View." He paused for a perfect comedic timing, letting the setup breathe. "You're telling me that I make the same thing over and over?" The implication was instantly clear, and it was devastating. The View, a show that has followed essentially the same format for over 2 decades. The same roundtable setup. The same structure discussing hot topics, interviewing guests, and debating current events. Day after day, week after week, year after year. And here was Joy Behar, who had been on the show since 1997, criticizing someone else for lack of innovation. The audience absolutely roared with laughter. It wasn't polite chuckling or courtesy laughs. This was genuine, explosive laughter. People were doubled over, clapping, pointing, completely losing it. The irony was just too perfect, too delicious. Even some of the co-hosts couldn't suppress their smiles and giggles. Sarah Haynes literally covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with laughter. Whoopi Goldberg threw her head back and laughed openly, not even trying to hide it. The cameras captured it all. Joy Behar's expression in that moment would become iconic, a frozen mixture of shock, embarrassment, and the dawning realization that she'd just been absolutely roasted on her own show. It was a television equivalent of being dunked on in basketball, and everyone in the building knew it. But here's what made Sandler's response so masterful. It wasn't mean-spirited. It wasn't cruel. It was simply the perfect observation, delivered with humor and timing that only someone with decades of comedy experience could pull off. He defended himself with class, power, and wit, all while maintaining the moral high ground. The moment went viral instantly, not in the casual way that things sometimes trend. This exploded across the internet like a bomb. Within minutes, literally minutes, while the show was still airing, people were screen recording the live broadcast on their phones and uploading clips. The footage spread like wildfire across every conceivable platform. Twitter erupted first. The clip was posted, retweeted, quote tweeted thousands of times within the first hour. The hashtags #Adam Sandler, #The View, #Joy Behar, and #Sandler Destroyed Joy all started trending simultaneously, climbing to the top of Twitter's trending topics not just in the United States, but globally. People in the UK, Australia, Canada, and across Europe were waking up to this drama and immediately sharing it. Instagram was next. The video clip appeared on countless accounts, entertainment news pages, comedy pages, celebrity gossip accounts, even sports and political commentary accounts, because the moment transcended typical categories. Everyone wanted to share it. The comments sections were absolutely flooded. Sandler is a legend. Joy got destroyed. This is the best thing I've seen all year. He ended her whole career in 30 seconds. TikTok exploded with reaction videos. Content creators filmed themselves watching the clip for the first time, capturing their genuine reactions of shock, laughter, and amazement. Some acted out their own versions of the exchange. Others created mashup videos, editing in Sandler's classic movie moments alongside his View appearance. The soundbite, "You're telling me that I make the same thing over and over," became an instant audio meme used in thousands of different contexts. YouTube was flooded with uploads, full segments, highlight clips, breakdown analysis videos, celebrity reaction compilations. Entertainment channels scrambled to cover the story. Thumbnails with shocked faces and all-caps titles dominated the platform. Adam Sandler destroys Joy Behar on live TV. The most brutal comeback in talk show history. Adam Sandler ynds Joy Behar's career in 60 seconds. Joy Behar speechless after Sandler's response. Major entertainment websites immediately published articles. TMZ, Entertainment Tonight, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline. Everyone rushed to cover the story. Headlines competed to capture the magnitude of what happened. Adam Sandler humiliates Joy Behar with perfect comeback. Joy Behar left speechless after attacking Adam Sandler goes wrong. Adam Sandler defends a career in viral View confrontation. The View's Joy Behar gets destroyed by Adam Sandler. Fans absolutely flooded social media with praise for Sandler. They celebrated him for defending his work while remaining classy and composed. "This is how you handle a bully," one viral tweet read. "Adam Sandler just gave a masterclass in standing up for yourself with dignity and humor," another proclaimed. People shared their own stories of how Sandler's movies had impacted their lives, creating a wave of positive sentiment that completely drowned out any remaining criticism. Celebrity reactions started pouring in too. Sandler's friends and colleagues from the industry tweeted their support. "Kevin James, that's my guy. Always has been. Always will be." Rob Schneider, "Joy, just learned why you don't mess with the Sandman." Even celebrities who'd never worked with Sandler chimed in, impressed by his composure and response. Meanwhile, back in the studio, Joy Behar, usually quick with a retort, known for never being at a loss for words, famous for always having to come back ready, sat completely speechless. Her mouth opened several times as if to respond, but nothing came out. She tried to laugh it off, forcing out an uncomfortable chuckle and waving her hand dismissively, but her body language told the real story. Her shoulders were tense. Her smile was forced. Her eyes would meet Sandler's or even the camera. The damage was done, and everyone knew it. The power dynamic had completely reversed. The hunter had become the hunted, and there was no recovering from it in the moment. The interview wrapped up quickly after that, mercifully for Joy. The other hosts desperately tried to restore some normalcy to the show, pivoting to commercial break earlier than scheduled, attempting to move on to lighter topics, doing anything they could to ease the crushing tension that still filled the studio. But you could see in their faces, in their rushed words, in their nervous energy, this wasn't just another day on The View. This was something that would be remembered, discussed, and analyzed for years to come. And the internet had already decided the verdict. Adam Sandler had won, decisively and memorably. Section 5. The Aftermath and Lessons Learned. In the days following the confrontation, the entertainment world couldn't stop talking about it. Adam Sandler's fans rallied around him, praising his dignity under fire. Many celebrities came to his defense on social media, pointing out his genuine kindness and the positive impact his films have had on popular culture. Joy Behar faced significant backlash. Critics accused her of being unnecessarily hostile to a guest who came on the show in good faith. Some called for an apology, though none was immediately forthcoming. The View's ratings actually spiked for the next few episodes as people tuned in to see if the incident would be addressed. The lesson? Even the nicest guys in Hollywood have their limits. Adam Sandler proved that you can defend yourself with class, humor, and truth, and that sometimes the best response to a bully is simply standing up for your work and letting your accomplishments speak for themselves. This wasn't just a comeback. It was a masterclass in handling confrontation with dignity.